and Gabby Williams were slow to get up after a collision underneath the basket. Here's what happened.
Oh, that is a major collision for the two of them. They both knock heads. It took them both some time to get to their feet.
Great stuff. That's the most complete game we put together in a long time. We made more free throws than they attempted. Yo, hey, that is a difference maker for us, and that will be a difference maker for us. 22 assists on 36 made field goals. Total team effort.
AB, 1,000th career rebound. Fastest player in Fever history to do so. And Kels set a new franchise record for most points in a single season.
And what it meant seeing her fight through what sure was not very pleasant.
I feel like Lexie's the definition of tough.
Yes.
I think when you just think of her as a player, the way that she hustles, she likes to get loose balls, extra offensive possessions. That's what she does. I mean, she got hit, she came back and just continued to contribute again, was a pest on defense, just making her presence felt, offensive rebounds, and that's just who
On that play.
I didn't know exactly what happened when it happened. It was kind of just like a clash. But looking at the video, it just, Gabby and I ran into each other. Unfortunate, unlucky. I think we both have knots on our heads, so we both kept playing, so it's all right.
Were you pretty dazed when you...
Yeah. I think it's more of like what just happened, big collision. I just need some time. Felt my face, felt a growing knot. So that just...
Lexie Hull went head-to-head so hard, fans thought her season ended right there on the hardwood. Minutes later, she was back with a swollen knot on her forehead, throwing herself on the floor for rebounds like it was nothing. That single move screamed toughness, the exact identity this Indiana Fever squad has been fighting to prove all year. And they chose the perfect stage. Nike had set up a whole Caitlin Clark celebration night, but Clark wasn't even playing. No star, half their guards gone, and still, Indiana walked out of that arena with a season-shaking win over the Seattle Storm. So how did Hull, Aliyah Boston, Odyssey Sims, and Kelsey Mitchell flip the Fever's entire story in one night? And what words from Aliyah Boston had the locker room buzzing with fire after the game? If you ride for the Fever, drop, "I've got the Fever, let's go," in the comments right now. Here's the thing. Indiana's struggles started long before tip-off. Caitlin Clark was still sidelined, nursing that groin injury that's had her out since mid-July. Add Sophie Cunningham, Ari McDonald, and Sydney Colson all gone for the year with season-ending injuries, plus Chloe Bibby still limping through knee issues. That's basically their entire guard rotation wiped out.
I mean, there's very few people who get the opportunity to say that they have a logo and to make the impact that she makes, not just I think in the sport, but globally, just by being who she is. She's a connector. She brings people together. And, I think for us to be a part of that, and whether it's, as simple as being able to celebrate all of these things with her, or, as much as walking out into the arena and seeing the whiteout on the chairs out there, it's really cool. And it's really special and shoot, I'm talking about it right now, and just feeling the intense gratitude for me personally, being in women's basketball, to be able to be a part of this moment.
The pressure fell heavy on the starters and bench pieces to cover those gaps on a night that was supposed to be all about survival. No excuses, just fight. And the stakes? Brutal. Indiana had dropped 4 of their last 5 games, sinking back toward the danger zone of missing the postseason. They walked into the night holding the 8th and final playoff spot at 19-18, with Seattle sitting 2 places higher at 6th. Every single possession felt like a battle for air. One mistake could bury them. One big run could shift their season. That's why Hull's comeback from that collision wasn't just gutsy. It was symbolic. Indiana wasn't folding. Not tonight, not with their season hanging by a single game in the standings. And yet, before the opening tip, Gainbridge Fieldhouse didn't feel like a battleground. It felt like a festival. Caitlin Clark's brand new Nike logo reveal had turned the entire arena into her personal billboard. Banners draped across railings, promo shirts everywhere, fans waiting in line to snap selfies at glowing backdrops. It was a Clark party before a single ball was tossed. But here's the twist. The superstar herself wasn't even suiting up.
Storm basketball. Delivery starters, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexie Hull. Second to the floor.
Clark sat courtside in street clothes, smiling for cameras, while her teammates were left to scrap for their playoff lives. The irony couldn't have been sharper. A celebration for a player who couldn't touch the floor, while the rest of the Fever had to fight just to keep the season alive. And without her, the adjustments were massive. No Clark threes to stretch the defense, no steady vets to slow the game down. Indiana had no choice but to pound the paint and dominate the glass just to survive. On the other side, Seattle, loaded with veterans and chasing their own playoff security, smelled blood.
Feels good. Got the pants, got the charms, necklace, zipper.
With Indiana's rotation looking paper thin, most people in the building expected a dogfight at best, and maybe even a blowout. But the Fever didn't show up timid. No way. Instead, they carried themselves like they had something to prove. Every rotation on defense snapped tighter. Every box out came with an extra shove. And while the arena was buzzing for Clark's off-court shine, the fans' eyes slowly shifted to the floor, desperate for someone else to grab the spotlight and steal the night. It was in that fragile, high-pressure atmosphere, where celebration clashed with survival, that the defining moment of the game unfolded. It all went down in the first quarter, a brutal scramble under the rim. Lexie Hull and Gabby Williams both lunged for a loose ball, and then crack! Their heads slammed together so hard the sound echoed through Gainbridge Fieldhouse like a gunshot. Both players collapsed instantly. Williams stayed down before heading to the bench, but Hull staggered straight to the locker room, clutching her forehead in pain.
I saw it, but I mean, it's who she is. She's just a tough young woman who battles every possession, and you can never tell if Lexie if she's hurt, if she's injured, if she goes down, if she gets back up. She just always has the same expression, and she just plays her butt off. And I'm thankful that it wasn't worse. And thankful that she was able to come back. But she really kind of epitomizes the toughness and the grit.
The cameras zoomed in, and the swelling was already starting, a knot rising on her head in real time. Fans at home winced. The arena fell silent. This wasn't just another knock. Indiana was already down 5 injured players, and now their glue girl looked finished too. It felt like the breaking point. The assumption was obvious. Hull's night had to be over. Nobody takes a headshot like that and comes back in the same game, right? Especially when you can literally see the bump growing on her forehead with every passing second. And that's the catch. Hull isn't some highlight reel scorer, but on this battered Fever roster, her hustle is priceless.
Boston can't finish inside, but able to tap it back out. Hull tracks it down and steps into a three and connects.
She guards the other team's top perimeter threats. She dives for every 50-50 ball. She plays with an energy that ties everyone else together. Without her, Indiana's defense was paper thin. Everyone in the building knew it. The collective thought hit hard. If she's done, how do the Fever possibly survive this night? The minutes dragged. And then suddenly, the impossible happened. Hull re-emerged from the tunnel. The swelling was obvious. A huge knot marked the spot. But her body language said something different.
Getting back on the bench, was everybody just kind of staring at your forehead directly? And...
I knew yeah. Everyone's like, "You look beautiful." I'm like, I know I look insane, but it honestly looks better now than it did when it first happened. So, hopefully this goes down quick.
Did you glance up at the video board to see it? Did you get a look at it?
No, I could see it looking out. I could see it just from my own eyes, so I didn't need to look anywhere. I knew it was going to be big.
No way. So it's in your peripheral vision?
Yes. It was literally sticking out. I mean, it's still big right here, but it was bigger and I could see it. So they brought it down a little.
Your teammates, your coach, the GM, everybody's just kind of talking about your toughness, I guess. So there's not really a good way to ask that question, but if you could just talk to me about that toughness and where that comes from.
I mean, if I can play, I can. If I feel like I can play, I can play. Whether or not I look good or not isn't the problem. So, I think for me, it's just the team is the most important thing. Getting wins is the most important thing. And if I can contribute in any way I can, that's what I'm going to do. So if it's playing a little injured, playing a little hurt.
She checked in without hesitation like she never left. And on her very first possession, she dove headfirst onto the hardwood, chasing a loose ball, the same fearless intensity as before. The crowd exploded. Fans jumped to their feet, roaring like they just witnessed a knockout fighter rise back up for another round. What looked like the end of Lexie Hull's night flipped into the spark that lit up the whole building. Later, Hull admitted she felt dizzy right after the collision, but instead of staying down, she strapped in and logged heavy minutes anyway. She even joked afterward that people kept telling her she looked beautiful, with a giant lump swelling across her forehead. That's warrior comedy right there. And the effect? Instant. The bench felt it, the starters felt it. Her fight spread through the team like wildfire. Aliyah Boston didn't hold back afterward either, flat out calling Hull the definition of tough. That wasn't just praise, it was branding. Indiana had finally stamped their identity in front of everyone watching. Even head coach Stephanie White chimed in with fire. She called the collision disgusting, but described Hull as unshakable. White said, "She never shows if she's hurt, she just gets back up and competes every single possession." And that's exactly what she delivered.
It's just a really good job. That's what I'm talking about. An extra dribble to get Malanga inside the cylinder of the rim.
It's been a strong start to the third quarter here for Indiana. An 11-point lead has grown to 16, and Boston adding to it, and one and a foul.
Screen and roll, and a good steal.
The box score backed it up loud and clear. Hull grabbed 9 rebounds, posted a game best, plus 31 plus minus, and her defense completely jammed Seattle's rhythm. She rotated into makeshift lineups and made them look like seasoned units, holding the Storm in check every possession. Her return didn't just lift the team. It flipped the atmosphere in Gainbridge itself. Suddenly, this wasn't about Indiana hanging on to survive. This was about sending a message. And Hull's toughness set the perfect stage for Boston, Sims, and Mitchell to snatch control of the game and run the night. With Indiana's guard rotation shredded to pieces, the game shifted straight to the paint, and Aliyah Boston made sure Seattle felt the punishment every single trip down.
I don't have any specifics on it. I think right now it's day to day. She's progressed in her rehab and anticipate by hopefully what is today? What day is today? Tuesday. By hopefully end of the week she'll be on the floor, at least in practice.
What have you been missing without her? You know, I was talking to her recently about what she brought to you guys, but what do you feel like you've lacked when she is absent from these games?
The ability to spread the floor for AB. I mean, really to have another person that can knock down a shot and we can create some space for AB to go to work on the interior.
She bulldozed her way to 27 points, snagged 9 boards, and turned the lane into her personal war zone. Every possession, you could see her carving out deep position, sealing defenders with her frame, and finishing with the kind of raw power that left the Storm doubling her and still looking helpless. When a true star decides, "This is my game to carry," you feel it in the air, and Boston owned that paint like she had the deed in her back pocket. By halftime, Seattle's front court looked wrecked. Indiana was manhandling them 42-21 on the glass, a rebounding margin you almost never see at this level.
And good hands there by Aliyah. Boston just wrestles it away from Agumake, and here is Mitchell.
Usually you'd have a 2-for-1 right here if you had Caitlin Clark on the floor, but without Caitlin Clark, you really need to get a good look.
They do get a good look, and it's Boston to Mitchell. Here is Boston going at the rookie. Boston using her strength to get to the rim.
That 1-4 dribble puts the shot blocker inside the cylinder of...
Every missed shot landed in Boston's hands. Every putback crushed Seattle's rhythm. Their guards tried driving, but ran into traffic jams. The perimeter shut down. And frustration? It was written all over the Storm's faces. What unfolded was less like a contest and more like a demolition inside. But Boston wasn't running solo. Odyssey Sims turned the game into her own statement piece. Dropping 22 points, she attacked off the dribble, pushed the pace in transition, and hit shot after shot that ripped the roof off Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Her biggest moment, a deep 3 from the logo. Nothing but net. The arena exploded into pure chaos. And here's the real kicker. That shot was more than just points. It was Sims announcing loud and clear, this injury-ravaged Fever squad wasn't going anywhere. Signed mid-season or not, she looked fearless, confident, and completely unfazed by the moment. Her pace and swagger fueled the entire lineup, proving Indiana wasn't just surviving, they were coming for blood. And just when Seattle thought they could load up on Boston, Kelsey Mitchell lit them up from the arc.
Aliyah Boston and Izzy Magbagor in the center jump circle. We are underway from Indianapolis. Odyssey Sims tracks down the jump ball and lays it in. There is Sims, one of those newcomers, slicing through the defense and gets to the rim.
I love the vertical game of the Fever right now.
In this building, 2007, finished third all-time points scored. IHSA basketball history on the girls' side is Odyssey Sims.
Dropping 21 points, she kept the Storm's defense stretched thin, punishing every lapse and making sure they couldn't just collapse inside. Without Clark's trademark spacing, it was Mitchell's outside firepower that kept the floor balanced and deadly. Every time Seattle tried to make a push, Mitchell had the answer. A pull-up jumper here, a dagger three there, her steady hand screamed one thing. Indiana still had plenty of weapons, even with half their roster in street clothes. That trio of Boston, Sims, and Mitchell didn't look like a desperate patchwork lineup. They looked like a brand new identity taking shape right in front of us. And the beauty? It worked everywhere. Indiana turned defensive stops into lightning-fast breakouts, holding Seattle to just 3 fast break points the entire game. They dictated pace, dominated inside scoring, and played so aggressively that the Storm spent most of the night reacting instead of creating. This wasn't survival basketball. It was domination.
Just curious, on a big picture, was Caitlin able to go through your little walkthrough or whatever you normally do? And what do you want to see ultimately to get comfort whenever the time comes?
Yeah, she went through our walkthrough yesterday. Today it was very short, prior to game time, but she went through it yesterday, and I want to see her in practice, live in practice. I want to see her continue to work to not just build endurance, but to be able to handle contact 94 feet as it's going to be in game, and to be able to do that and sustain from an endurance standpoint. And that's going to take multiple practices to make sure that there's no regression. And, as most of us know, when we get fatigued, we look different, and see how she plays.
By the time the buzzer sounded, the scoreboard read 95-75, but it didn't feel like an upset. It felt like control. Indiana didn't just beat Seattle, they swept them 3-0 on the season, vaulted back into 6th place in the standings, and stole the spotlight on a night Nike had designed to showcase Clark's logo instead. The message was clear. This Fever squad is so much more than one superstar. And now, with Caitlin Clark close to returning, the question hanging over the league is simple. If Indiana can impose their will while this injured, what happens once they're whole again? While the Fever were celebrating their most complete win in weeks, the moment everybody had been waiting for finally arrived. Caitlin Clark was finally spotted back on the practice court, her first live action since that groin injury in mid-July. The update hit like breaking news, spreading just as fast as Indiana's big win. Clark has already missed 16 straight games, one of the longest absences of her career. So just seeing her back in uniform again felt bigger than symbolic. It was a signal. The Fever's biggest weapon is close to reloading. Coach Stephanie White gave insight before tip-off. Earlier in the week, Clark had been limited to walkthroughs, easing her way in. But this time was different. The staff wanted her in a real practice environment. That meant more than shooting drills or light conditioning.
And Gabby Williams were slow to get up after a collision underneath the basket. Here's what happened.
Well, that is a major collision for the two of them. They both knock heads. It took them both some time to get to their feet.
It was about testing her body against live contact, defenders pressing her, and whether her rhythm could survive long stretches without breaking down. And the danger? Groin injuries don't play around. Push too early and the setback can be worse than the original issue. White was crystal clear. Clark would need multiple full practices before they even thought about activating her. No shortcuts, no rushed hero returns. Still, the pressure is undeniable. Indiana has just 6 games left in the regular season, and every day without Clark squeezes the margin for error tighter. Yes, climbing back into the 6th seed feels like momentum. But the playoff table is a minefield. One bad week, one losing streak, and the Fever could tumble straight out of position, their postseason hopes hanging by a thread.
First home game. Got a dub. Let's get it.
Big dub.
Fever dub. Bow, bow, bow. Woo! Dubs.
It's giving.
That's why Clark's recovery isn't just a long-term concern. This isn't about saving her for next year. This is about survival, right now. Every practice matters. Every decision is magnified. And the clock is ticking louder with each passing game. On the very night her new Nike logo was splashed across every inch of Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Caitlin Clark sat courtside in nothing but a warm-up fit. She clapped, she cheered, she smiled, but the spotlight still felt hollow without her on the floor. The picture was crystal clear. The brand was soaring, but the team had been forced to grind for survival without their most lethal weapon in uniform. Her comeback road is starting to take shape. First, it was solo shooting drills. Then light contact. Now, she's in full team practices, the last barrier before suiting up again. And insiders are already circling Friday's trip to Los Angeles as the likely return date.
Both Hull and McBride are slow to get up on the other end. It's 4-on-4. 2 more for Boston.
Facing the Sparks might not look like a playoff-shaking matchup on paper, but it's the perfect stage to get Clark's rhythm back before back-to-back duels with Phoenix and Minnesota, games that could decide the entire postseason race. But Clark's comeback is bigger than her stat line. This is about unlocking the version of Indiana that just stunned Seattle, and then adding the league's most dangerous floor stretcher back into the mix. Imagine Boston's paint dominance with Clark pulling defenders out to the arc. Imagine Sims pushing the pace while Clark ignites transition attacks. If this battered roster can smack Seattle around shorthanded, what happens when they finally hit full strength? The ceiling doesn't just rise, it blows off completely. That's why the Seattle win mattered so much. It wasn't about one good night. It was about identity. Indiana showed toughness. They showed grit. And they showed they can throw punches even without their star. And the best part?
This is a string of games, beginning of a string of games against the teams you're competing for a playoff spot against. Did this game feel more important in that regard? And I guess how big was it to get a win in this one?
Yeah, I mean, going into this game, we talked about that this was going to be a big game for us, considering the standings where Seattle was. But, you know, going into the West Coast trip, I mean, right now we're just going to be focused on LA. That's kind of been our motto this entire season, is just focus on the game ahead of you, be where your feet are. And so starting tomorrow, we're going to be looking at LA. But, I mean, this next string of games definitely important for us, but we got...
Clark's return is almost here. Coach Stephanie White spelled it out. The final hurdle is contact work and live practices. Once she clears that, the whole league better brace itself. And that's the part the league can't ignore. Indiana just sent a warning shot without even having their superstar on the floor. The Fever didn't just beat Seattle, they crushed them. And they did it with toughness, defense, and grit that screamed, "We're not a one-woman show." Now picture what happens when Caitlin Clark steps back in. Boston is already wrecking front courts. Sims is attacking like she's been here forever, and Mitchell's steady buckets keep every defense honest. Add Clark's shooting range, her passing vision, and the swagger she brings every time she touches the ball, and suddenly, Indiana doesn't just look dangerous, they look unstoppable. The timing couldn't be sharper. With only a handful of games left, every possession carries playoff weight.
I had that first half feel, especially with 18 and just 20 minutes of play.
I mean, it obviously feels good, I think, for me, just playing with confidence. We're missing people, so everyone's got to do a little bit extra, be a little bit more aggressive offensively. So that was my mindset going in, and obviously it feels good to see the ball go through the net.
The Fever just climbed back into the 6th seed, and with Clark's return looming, the path ahead shifts from survival to dominance. This isn't about sneaking into the postseason anymore. It's about setting the stage for a run that could flip the entire bracket upside down. And the symbolism? Too perfect. On a night Nike rolled out Clark's logo and branded her as bigger than the game, her teammates hijacked the spotlight and proved they're building something real. They don't need her to carry them every night. But with her back in the mix, they might just build the scariest roster in the league. The dynasty whispers are starting. The Fever have their identity. They have their star returning. and they've got a locker room buzzing with belief. If this is what they look like beaten up and shorthanded, the rest of the WNBA better ask themselves one question.
He's been the one that's been most affected by all of our injuries. You know, all of the point guards that know how to get her the ball and how they get it to her. And it's not just getting her the ball, it's where you get it to her, you know, getting it to her on time, on target, you know, thinking one pass ahead, you know, all that matters. And I thought today,
if Indiana's already this good, what happens when they're whole again? The final hurdle is here, live practices before game action. And once Clark clears it, just imagine how this Fever squad looks with her back on the floor, stretching defenses, running fast breaks, and adding her playmaking magic to a team that already proved it can dominate shorthanded. So ask yourself, was this the night Indiana stopped looking like a patched-up roster and officially became a playoff-ready threat? Because if this is the version without Clark, the full-strength Fever might be the nightmare no team wants to face.
her aggressiveness with the ball in her hands to the rim, getting into defenders, playing low to high instead of high to low. When she plays like that, you know, there's nobody that can stop her. And, you know, she set the tone for us, really on both ends. You know, she had the NECA assignment as well and set the tone for us on both ends. And, you know, she was terrific.
If you've got the fever, drop it in the comments. I've got the fever. Like, subscribe, share, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a moment. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.